with two paragraphs about the days that we don't say Tachanun. The first paragraph will be about specific days in the Jewish calendar, and the second paragraph, number 8, will be about celebrations that happen in the synagogue or outside of the synagogue on that day, and that's why we don't say Tachanun. Certain people don't say Tachanun, or the whole community. We'll get to that. So, the Nefilat Apayim prayer is one that expresses sorrow concerning our errors and shortcomings, which prevent us from standing before Hashem, at least standing upright and being humble. Instead, we fall on our faces. For that reason, it is not proper to recite it on days of joy, since in its essence, the Tachanun prayer is voluntary. It is therefore customary not to recite Tachanun even on days that are deemed uncertain as to whether or not they should be defined as days of joy. So I'll just give two examples. One is the days are before Shavuot, from the first day of Sivan until the fifth day of Sivan. So the last 3 days, so days 2, 3, and 3, 4, and 5. No, sorry, 2, 3, and 4 are because those are the 3 days that Moses told them to get ready for the Mount Sinai experience. But then day 5 is called Yom Miyuchad. It's a day that we don't know what the reason is that we don't say Tachnun, but because we don't say the day before and we don't say the day after. Um, so that's why we do it like that. No, let me correct that, please. Day 1, 3, 4, and 5 are Rosh Chodesh and the 3 days of Hagbalah, because Shavuot is on the 6th day of Sivan. So the second day of Sivan is what's called Yom HaMiyuchad, the day that we don't know why it's just there. So on the following days, Tachanun is not recited, so Rav Melamed gives us a whole list: Shabbat, festivals, Chol Moed, and Rosh Chodesh. So these are obviously all the days. So Shabbat, there's 52 Shabbos in the year. Festivals is all 8 days of Sukkot and Pesach. So that includes Chol Moed, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, um, and Shavuot, 2 days, and Rosh Chodesh. The remaining days are presented in the order of the calendar year. Shacharit of Erev Rosh Hashanah, so always the morning of the eve of a holiday, we don't say Tachnun. Shacharit of Erev Yom Kippur, from the 11th of Tishrei until the end of the month of Tishrei, since those days surround the festival of Sukkot. Chanukah, all 8 days. Tu B'Shvat, the 2 days of Purim, and in leap years also on the 14th and 15th of the first Adar. The entire month of Nisan, since most of it possesses sanctity, for the dedication of the tabernacle, was held in the beginning of the month, and the holiday of Pesach follows. So the first 12 days again were the days of inauguration, and then the 13th day is just because it's there, and then the 14th is Erev Pesach. The 14th of Iyar, which is the second Passover. Lag BaOmer, from Rosh Chodesh Sivan to the 12th of Sivan, since the supplementary sacrifices for Shavuot were offered until that time. So you came to Jerusalem, you couldn't bring a personal sacrifice on the day of Shavuot, but you stayed in Jerusalem for another 6 days to bring whatever you had to bring. So Olat Raya and Olat Chagiga and Shlamim and all kinds of oaths that you made, that would be the right time. Tisha B'Av, either because of mourning or because it is called Moed. So in Jeremiah's prophecy about the destruction of the temple, he called Tisha B'Av the day of Moed. Moed means a appointed time. But also in a house of mourning, which we'll get to in the next paragraph, we don't say Tachnun. And Tachnun is not recited except for Mincha of Erev Rosh Hashanah and Erev Yom Kippur, when many people recite Vidui then, but not Tachnun. So again, on the whole day of the eve of a holiday, you don't say it, and also even eve of Rosh Chodesh. Today, ever since Hashem began to bring forth our redemption, Tachnun is not recited on Yom Ha'atzmaut, Israel's Independence Day, and on the 20th of Iyar, Yom Yerushalayim, the day that we liberated the eastern part of Jerusalem, nor at Mincha before each of them. So this is, of course, only the what's called national religious Jews who don't, But there's also a lot of Haredim, people who can call themselves ultra-Orthodox, who don't say Hallel, but they also don't say Tachanun on that day. I met quite a few. As far as I remember, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, his son-in-law told us that his father didn't say Hallel, but he also didn't say Tachanun. He was in Jerusalem when this happened, and so he recognized that reason for canceling Tachanun. And so in the 8th and last paragraph of this chapter, we're going to learn about the different people that don't say, or the community, if there's a celebration in the shul. So Tachanun is not recited. Obviously, we're talking about the regular weekday because all the rest we already listed in the previous paragraph. Tachanun is not recited in a minyan in which Ba'alei Simcha, those celebrating a joyous mitzvah, celebrating a celebration, are praying. Therefore, Tachanun is not recited in a minyan in which a chatan, a groom, within his 7 days of festivity is praying. However, in Shachrit and Mincha before his wedding, Tachanun is recited, although if Mincha is prayed close to the ceremony at the wedding hall, Tachanun is not recited. So if you go to a wedding and it's like late in the afternoon and they're doing Mincha, you will not hear Tachanun because they're already in the celebration, even though technically speaking, the ketubah might be for the next day if it's after sunset. Similarly, in a minyan in which one of the Baalei Brit, circumcision, is praying, Tachanun is not recited. So the Baalei Brit are, who are these people? The father of the baby being circumcised, the mohel, and the sandak. So the sandak has to know in advance that he's a sandak, and that's what we did last week, where Rabbi Hertzfeld pointed out that most likely Harold was going to be a sandak, and so that's why we didn't say Tachnun. And the exemption lasts from the morning until the celebration meal, the Suda. That is, if the Brit is held in the morning, Tachnun is not recited in the Shacharit service, but if the Brit is held after Mincha, Tachnun is omitted in both Shacharit and Mincha. But of course, there is a custom to try to do the bris as early as possible in the day. Not only in a minyan in which one of the Baalei Brit is praying is Tachanun not recited, but even in the synagogue in which the bris is held. So let's say that the Baalei Brit are praying in a different shul or even coming from out of town, and then in the shul where the actual Brit is going to be, Tachanun is not recited. In a building in which there are a number of prayer halls, Tachanun is omitted only in the particular hall in which the Brit will be held. And the last Brit that I participated in or was present in Israel, it was my great nephew, I guess. We were at Machon Meir, and there was an argument if we're having the Brit in the Beit Midrash or in the smaller room that's used during the week for davening. And thank God they didn't say Tachanun in both because they didn't know for sure. Bar mitzvah, we mentioned that a few times. Many are accustomed not to say Tachanun in a minyan in which a youth who is reaching the age of mitzvot on that day is praying, though some do recite it. So I think the halacha for us is that if it's the actual day of his birthday or the day he's being called up to the Torah during the week, Monday and Thursday, then we should not say Tachanun. Pidyon Aben, many are accustomed not to recite Tachanun in a minyan which the father of the son is praying, yet some do, and so Pidyon Aben is the redemption of the firstborn. Likewise, in a prayer service that joins to the ceremony of a conclusion of a tractate, a siyum, or the presentation of a Torah scroll, a Chasat Sefer Torah, many are accustomed not to recite Tachanun, though some do, and again, it's whatever the rabbi of the shul or the chazan is doing, that's what everybody should follow. They shouldn't separate and say, I'm going to say Tachanun even though everybody else doesn't. We already learned that when there's a doubt as to whether or not to say Tachanun, the correct way to practice is not to recite it, as brought in Halacha 1. And one of the things that my rabbis told me, that when it says Bari v'Shema Bari Adif, that we have a rule that something is obvious and something is not so obvious or questionable, then we do according to the Bari. But the way that I say it in English is, when in doubt, don't. And it's not because of Shem Hashem or anything like that. It's just because it's voluntary, we are more lenient about it. On days of public celebration in memory of prominent Jewish rabbis and righteous people, Yortzeit or Hilula, the opinion of the absolute majority of poskim is that it is necessary to say Tachanun, and that is the custom. And we said that the people who have an actual connection to somebody, they can have a community that doesn't say it, but the majority of poskim say that you do. The Hasidic poskim maintain that those who follow in the ways of a particular righteous person, as we mentioned earlier, engross themselves in his teachings throughout the year and prepare a feast in his honor on the anniversary of his passing from this world, do not recite Tachanun on that day. However, on the remaining celebration days, in memory of other righteous people, Tachanun must be recited. So if you are a Hasid of Lubavitch, then you should omit Tachanun on those days. But if you are a Hasid of Lubavitch, you should not omit it for the days of Tagur or any other Hasidic movement, omit Tachanun. And we'll stop the recording so I can share something, I think, personal.